Hey everybody, my name is Kevin, a lead solution engineer here at DreamFactory. Today we're going to talk about role-based access control and why it's important. And what you're looking at is the DreamFactory interface looking at a database API we just created. These are all the API endpoints that were generated from it. And so briefly, why role-based access control is important is it restricts what the users or the apps can see and have access to and what they can do with that access, whether it's read, write, delete, or update. Um, and the thing that's important about that is it protects your data by ensuring only the right users or apps can reach certain information. You can imagine without RBAC, anyone with API access could potentially see or change data that they shouldn't, leading to security breaches, data loss, and compliance issues. So let's take a look a bit at how that might work. So we have up in the browser here, here's a request URL from a database API I created. And if I take this off real quick, we'll remove that header. This is what you would expect to see before we add any type of API key. Basically saying, hey, you can't pull back any data until you have an API key. So let's say we went ahead and generated an API key, but we didn't put any type of role-based access control in place beyond having access to the entire database. What that would look like then, if we added that API key, let's come back in here. Here's our Dream Factory key. Here's the actual key. We hit browse, and there you go, we're returning that. Now, imagine if this is like inside the website, somebody expects your website or is able to get to that request URL somehow. And we haven't put any restrictions on this database API service. They could type in employees, another table. And now they have access to our employee information. So that is no good, no bueno whatsoever. So let's talk about how RBAC solves that situation. So here we are in the DreamFactory interface. I'm going to go into role-based access control. I'm going to type in something I already started just to save a little time. So here it is. We have our role-based access control name. This is just a database API. Right here is where we're going to add the rules for restricting what users and or applications can have access to. So just simply click on the plus sign, drop down. We're going to grab the database API service. And then we're going to go searching for a specific table because that's all I want this service to have access to. So for the users and the applications that the API is going to go into, we only want them looking at the sales table. I also only want to allow them to have read access. And that's it. Now, if I wanted to, I could also add additional services here by just hitting, let me come in and come out of this. If we come back into this, I could hit the plus sign and I could go after maybe a different table, maybe a different schema, store procedure, you name it. I could even come in here and pull from another different type of service or a different database altogether. So for instance, Snowflake, and maybe we want the schema on that, and I could do different types of CRUD capabilities with that. All right, so let's go ahead. This is what we set up for now. Access to just the sales table. And so once we've done that, let's just make sure that took. It did. All right. Once we do that, we then need to set up an API key. And I've already started on that process. It's really, again, just naming something. And this is the key part right here, assigning the role. And in this case, I assigned it the role-based access control we just created. So that's assigned to that now. All right. And then we're going to copy that key out. Okay. And we're going to embed that into my HTML web page. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and just run this web page without any type of API key. And so again, there's that same error we were seeing before. We need at least a session token or an API key to get this to work. So let's go back And we're going to paste that in. And just making sure I have the right key. Let me go back and check just to make sure we got the right key from the database access role. We'll go ahead and say copy API key. All right. And paste that in. There we go. And then we'll go ahead and open that up. And sure enough, we're returning data. Now, you'll see here we have data that says, welcome to your personal website, and it's for customer ID 221, customer ID 343, 456. So, what happens if we have a multi-tenant situation? So, what I really want to have happen is that customer 343 comes in and they only see their data. And same thing for customer 221 and 456 and so on. So you could call that multi-tenancy type of scenario, if you will. So let's go back into DreamFactory and show how we address that. So we'll go back to role-based access. We'll come into our access role we just created. And within these services, we can add an advanced server-side filter. Sometimes you might hear the people refer to this as like row level security or data level security. And in this case, what I'm going to do is say, hey, customer ID equals, and to make this more automated, we would set this up so that it would be something like tenant ID. So when the customer logs in, basically what happens is um, we would let the customer authenticate through their own provider, whether that's Active Directory, Okta, Auth0, and that would then use that provider's login response to identify the user and their customer. After authentication, DreamFactory apply the role-based access control rules using the customer's tag, right? In this case, it's their tenant ID. That we look up on. And that would automatically filter and return only data that belongs to that specific customer. For database purposes, I'm just going to hard code that to that one customer, which I think was 343. Okay, and we'll click update. And now we'll come back to the app. We'll hit refresh. And there you go. We only see customer ID 343. So classic multi-tenancy. So there you have it. Just a quick overview of role-based access control within DreamFactory and why it's incredibly important to locking down and ensuring that only the right applications and right people see the right data. And so this has just been a brief tutorial overview. Again, my name is Kevin Hood. Thank you so much for your time today. Take care.